Hi, everyone. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talks, and I'm your host, the literary ambassador. Today, I have author D.E. Grant of Cursed Plantation with me today, and I want to welcome him to my blog. Good afternoon, good afternoon, good afternoon. How are you today?
I'm quite well. Pleasure's mine, Queenie.
All right, Mr. Grant. Tell us about yourself.
Well, there's not much to tell. I am the fourth child of six, the only male. I have five sisters, four of them older, two of them younger. I'm spoiled rotten. I always get my way. um, I've been writing now I wrote poetry when I was a teenager. Graduated to writing. This is my first novel. This is the first of three. And I love it. I love writing. It allows me to use my imagination and it allows me to be creative.
All right. Now tell us about your book, Cursed Plantation. And I love the cover. I love that cover.
Thank you.
It's about the book.
Well, the book, the book takes place in slavery era Louisiana,
Mm-hmm.
and the young slave girl that was tricked into slavery was forced into slavery by not so nice man. He portrayed himself to be a nice guy at first, but as the story goes on, you find out that he is not a very nice person. And when you come to have that happen, you do things that would cause unfortunate consequences.
Mm-hmm.
You have what he did was he took advantage of the young lady's virtue and he unleashed a spirit of sorts, something that was just bent on destroying him, his family, his bloodline, everything.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where I am. It is something that was in my imagination for some years. And it took me about 5 years to actually get it from idea to concept toward publication. It took me about 5 years. It had to be built, had to be done around life
Mm-hmm.
and life living, and then you have to put it to the side or get some editing done when you can. And it was just life that made it take so long. But I believe everybody has a story and everybody should get it out there. There's reading for anybody and for everybody.
That's true. Well, first, let me say congratulations on your book being exposed at the Book Expo in New York a couple of months ago.
Thank you.
So I
Thank
would like
you.
to say congratulations on that. Okay, what was the hardest thing about writing this book?
Finding the time to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I have each of my stories in my mind, but to have the time to sit down and put it down, that's the hardest part. I have no problem. I know how the story goes, just like I knew how the story in Cursive Plantation was supposed to go. The
Mm-hmm.
second book, I already know how that story goes. I know how that ends. And the third book that is in that trilogy, I already know how it begins and how it ends. But finding the time to sit down and say, well, okay, I'm going to write today, that's the hardest part of it.
Like I said, I love the cover. Can you tell the readers about the cover and how that came to be?
The eyes were sensual because the being, the spirit that is set loose has green eyes.
Mm-hmm.
The plantation of the plantation, the antebellum plantation that took place that you would find during the slavery time. And
Okay.
it's kind of spooky, so I love the night, like the night scenery.
Okay.
It makes you think about things that go bump in the night.
Yes. Yes. How do you feel about reviews, and what are your thoughts on reviews?
Well, I do value everyone's opinion on what I've written and what I will write. I value everyone's opinion. But by the same token, I realize that everybody's writing is not for everybody.
Mhm.
I've learned that from Toni Morrison, her quote, it says, I wrote my first novel because I wanted to read it. And that's the reason why that was the inspiration behind writing this book. I wanted to read it. I wanted to see what was going around in my head, what I was capable of putting down.
Okay. Have you read your own book since being published?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, I have. And I have been taken on the same journey as I wrote it. And I think that's the biggest thing for a writer is that if you read your own book and you take that same journey that you went through when you wrote it, the ups and downs, the twists, the particular settings, if you can imagine the setting, the same way that you did when you wrote it, then
Mm-hmm.
you've been successful.
Oh, okay. When you're not writing, what are you doing?
Work, work, and more work. That's it. I mean, the job that I have leaves me very little time for a social life. I'm
Okay.
assistant general manager at a hotel, and that leaves me with very little time for myself.
Mm-hmm.
So if I'm not reading or thinking about what I can put in my book, I'm at work. Matter of factly, I'm in my office now.
Okay. Do you have a writing style? Or you
A
just
writing style. Uh, I like to paint pictures with my words.
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I'm very descriptive with scenery. I enjoy the visualization. I think that to have any successful story, you have to take your reader on a journey, and
Mm-hmm.
you have to give them what's going on, and you have to be very descriptive in it. So that's my writing style. I tend to be very descriptive in my writing. I want my reader to be right in the middle of the action.
Okay. What inspires you to write?
The ability to get away from real life. I'm serious. When you write in fiction, I write fiction. When you write fiction, you allow yourself to be transported to a different place, to a different time, to be able to put all of the day's work and the day's worry behind you while you're writing.
Mm-hmm.
I always tell people when I'm writing, I'm going to my setting is. And in book two, it's New Orleans. So I tell people I'm going to New Orleans. So that's where I'm at. My mindset,
Mm-hmm.
everything is
Mm-hmm.
there. Mine is there. I even reference, places and landmarks, in New Orleans. I want my readers to be there. So that's where I go.
Have any of your family members read your books, and what are their thoughts on the book?
They were surprised that I wrote it. They were surprised that I wrote it because I had kept it to myself for the last 5 years. I did not tell anyone. And when word did get out through social media, my niece read it. One of my sisters have a copy of it. Very close friends have read it. They have copies of it. So yeah, they've read it. They've been surprised that I came up with something like that. But see, for me, I wasn't surprised. I like things of that nature. I'm a big fan of the paranormal. I'm a big fan of stuff that would scare you a little if you wish, if you let it. I'm that kind of a fan. I've always liked horror. I've always liked the paranormal. So I put my two biggest loves into my writing.
Okay. What is your greatest accomplishment thus far?
Literary, getting it
Yes.
published,
Getting it.
and getting interview behind it and putting it out there. The whole process is like I want to say like giving birth because you have an idea,
Mm-hmm.
you form it, shape it, you nurture that idea, you 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 worry over it, wondering if it's gonna come out right.
Mm-hmm.
It's like mixing the ingredients in a cake and hope it doesn't fall in the oven.
Mm-hmm.
So when I finally got it published, that was my greatest literary accomplishment by far. That and the fact that I've been interviewed by it, and I'm interviewed by you right now. So that's a part of the biggest part of my list of accomplishments in the literary world.
Okay. What projects are you working on right now?
I'm working on a sequel to Cursed Plantation.
Okay.
It's tentatively entitled Cursed Legacy. It takes place in New Orleans, modern day New Orleans. And it's a sequel, like I said, it's a sequel to the first one.
Okay. Okay. What made you become an author?
My love of writing, allowing my imagination to have a voice, to give some artistic outlet for myself. As I said before, I believe everybody has a story, but you have to believe enough in yourself to write it and to put it
Mm-hmm.
out there. And I had to be convinced to put it out there. So now it's out there. Now it's out there. I had people across the country and yes, around the world reading that book, my thoughts, my words,
Mm-hmm.
and that that has really blown me away. It has been a whirlwind for me. Just someone like me can have somebody that, someone that's read my book or seen a preview of my book or purchased my book. These kinds of things are building up in me, and for people to see that and to enjoy what I've written, it's like it's a fulfillment of a dream for me.
Mm-hmm. Okay. What genre would you say you write under, and what genre would you not write under?
Ooh, um, I write paranormal thrillers. I love horror stories, so that's where in the vein that I'm writing
Okay.
in. I grew up with movies like The Exorcist, Friday the 13th. I grew up with those serial killers and Freddy Krueger. I grew up with those. So those were my inspirations that way. I grew up reading Stephen King, Dean Koontz, John Saul. I grew up with in that genre. So that's where my writing took. Those were the inspirations for my writing. What I wouldn't write, as much as of a romantic as I am in real life, I could not write romance novels. I think for me personally, I could not write them. I could not write them. No, no. Uh-uh. No, ma'am. Not at all.
You sure you couldn't write a sweet romance?
No, ma'am. No, ma'am. No, no. Uh-uh. And I would not even try because I know I already have an attitude for it. No, ma'am. I could not do it. Mm-mm. I can write about anything and everything else. Some of my poetry covered everything from love, life, and death, but I cannot write. Oh, oh. As much as I love love, I could not write a romance novel. No, ma'am.
Okay. Have you ever thought about co-authoring with someone? If so, who would you like to co-author or collab with as an author?
Now, everybody in my genre will go with the Stephen Kings, the Dean Koontzes and John Sauls of that nature. If I could, I would, I would co-write with James Harrison. I would co-write with James Harrison. I like his writing. I would also like to co-author with V.C. Andrews. I like her writing. I liked her writing. I read every last one of her books, every last one. So I would V.C. Andrews. I would.
Okay. Did you enjoy English class when you were in school?
Yes, ma'am. I loved it. I loved it to the point where I make it my business to try to speak proper English, and it comes out in my writing sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
My fiance, I speak with that "hither thou comest to thee" voice, So I try to speak in proper English, but I have to put the language into within my character. So my characters have different speech patterns. My characters talk differently. They have different dialects. They have different terms they would use. So I have to put myself into my character completely.
Okay. How can readers get in touch with you?
I am found on social media. People on Twitter love me. They know me. Uh, I can be found on Twitter. I can be found on Facebook under DE Grant. I can be found on Instagram under DE Grant underscore 2017. I can also be found, as I mentioned, on Twitter as in DE Grant 2018, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
So I can be found on media.
Okay. And last question, is there anything you would like to add before we end?
I would like for my readers to enjoy reading my book as much as I did enjoy writing it. It was a journey, and I want to take my readers on that same journey. I want them to feel the hair prickle on the back of their necks. I want them to get that chill when whatever happens, happens.
Mm-hmm.
And I want them to enjoy it.
Okay. And again, where can they purchase this, your book?
It can it can be found on Amazon. It can be found on Barnes and Noble. It can be found on Barnes and Noble, Amazon. It can be found on Google Play, and it can be found on iTunes. And there's a bookstore in Goose Creek, South Carolina, you can purchase my book there. It's called The Turning Page. Excuse me, Turning Page in Goose Creek. Shout out to the ladies there. They were the first.
Well, that'll be the end of our interview, but I would like to play my little game with you. Would you like to play the little game with me called Favorites?
Sure, I can do that.
All right, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, favorite hobby?
Watching the ocean. I love the water. I'll go to the water, and that's where I get my peace from.
Mm-hmm.
There is a majesty about the ocean. I love the awesomeness that has been placed in front of me when I go. It allows me to unwind, and some of my deepest secrets, my deepest fears, the ocean knows.
Oh, okay. Favorite color?
Blue, any shade of blue.
Favorite scripture?
Wow. If my children, which are called by my name, shall humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then will I hear from heaven and will heal their land.
Favorite restaurant?
Wow. I would have to say Olive Garden and Carrabba's.
Oh, okay. Favorite snack while writing?
Cashews and grapes. Either one or both of them.
Now, how do you like your grapes? Because I just seen a video that people are now freezing the grapes and eating them frozen.
No, it won't last that long.
Oh, really? Okay.
They won't last that long. I can buy them from the grocery store and eat them coming out of the store. They won't last that long. No, man.
Okay, and last, favorite childhood book and why?
I will have to go back with the classic, Carrie. Carrie by Stephen King. That was my first book that got me into the genre that I'm writing.
Okay.
That's the one that first got me to the horror genre, into the paranormal. Carrie. That was my first. That was my favorite.
All right. All right. This concludes the end of this video and interview, and I'm really appreciative that you joined me today, Arthur D.E. Grant. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
The pleasure is all mine. I'll be glad to do it anytime you may need to.
All right, I'm going to hold you to that, and I'm waiting on book 2 now.
Book two is scheduled to be ready by the end of the year, if I can find the time to finish.
Okay. Okay.
By the end of this.
All right. Thank you so much, and I really do appreciate it.
Pleasure's mine, Queenie. Thank you for getting me out there.
All right. This is Queenie Clem with Queenie's Book Talk and Reviews. Have a happy, happy day and happy reading. Bye.